but holy. Tonight ain't about money or fame, it's about legacy. Every family got a rhythm, and some of those beats been playing wrong for generations. The same arguments, the same addictions, the same silence, the same prayers nobody finished. And maybe you looked around and realized you the one who gotta stop the echo. You the one who gonna say, nah, it stops with me. See, God don't just save people, he saves bloodlines. He'll pick one person out the whole family and say, I'm changing the story through you. That's why you can't quit, even when it feel like you carrying the weight of everybody's mistakes. You the interruption heaven scheduled, the one born to flip the pattern, break the chain, and start a brand new chapter called grace. Fam, cycle breakers don't come from perfect places. They come from painful ones. You might have grown up around drama, distance, or dysfunction, but God's still looking at you like, that's the one. He ain't asking you to be flawless. He asking you to be faithful, because somebody got to face what everybody else been avoiding. Somebody got to talk where silence lived too long. Somebody got to forgive where pride built walls. And yeah, it's going to feel lonely. You're going to have moments where you question why you the one who got to grow while everybody else stay comfortable. But that's what pioneers feel like. Pressure with purpose. The same pain that tried to poison your family gonna become the power that purifies it. You're gonna show your kids, your nieces, your nephews what healed look like. Beloved, this hour right here ain't about blaming the past. It's about building the future. God trusts you enough to rewrite what broke your people. You gonna be the first to pray different, think different, love different. And when they ask how you did it, you gonna tell them simple. God picked me to break what broke us. Fam, the cycle don't stand a chance now. You awake. Welcome to the hour of holy disruption. Fam, let's root this in word before we run with emotion, 'cause every curse got a clause and every clause got a cross. Exodus 25-6 says, I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Mao. Translation? Sin might echo for 4 generations, but love lasts 1,000. Grace outnumbers guilt every single time. Then Joshua 24:15 drops the family declaration, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That wasn't just a cute wall verse, fam. It was a line in the sand. Joshua was saying, my daddy's idols stop here. My mama's fears stop here. Whatever held them ain't holding me. And when one person makes that stand, the whole bloodline gets new direction. You shift from inherited patterns to intentional purpose. Now Galatians 3:13 seals the whole deal. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. You hear that? The curse already got canceled. Jesus didn't just forgive your sin, he rewrote your DNA in the spirit. That means generational bondage ain't permanent paperwork. The blood of Jesus overrides every family contract the enemy tried to file. Fam, that's the foundation. You ain't fighting for freedom, you fighting from it. You're not trying to break out, you reminding darkness it already lost the lease. You the living proof that the family tree still got fruit left in it. God ain't just saving your soul, he's securing your seed. That's why this moment matters. When you choose obedience over offense, prayer over pride, worship over worry, you cut a brand new covenant line through your bloodline. Beloved, hear this. Curses can't stand in covenant houses, and tonight, God's drawing one through yours. From this hour forward, your last name gonna carry light, not luggage. Fam, some of what you fighting ain't even yours, it's inherited. Passed down quiet, wrapped in phrases like, we don't talk about that, or just pray and move on. But silence got a sound, and every generation been humming the same broken tune. The anger nobody named, the anxiety nobody treated, the grief everybody buried alive. That's generational trauma. It live in the tone, in the habits, in the way we love halfway and fear fully. See, trauma don't just travel through memory, it travel through mannerisms. You ever catch yourself reacting like somebody you swore you'd never become? That's proof pain got roots. Mama never learned peace, so she raised warriors. Daddy never got healed, so he taught survival. And now you stand here, tired, triggered, but chosen. God put you in this generation to name what they never could. Psalm 34:18 says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. That means he not avoiding your family history. He's studying it. He saw the abuse, the addiction, the neglect, the secrets, and he still said, you the one who gon' break the silence, even if your voice shake. You the one who gon' tell your kids, we talk about hard things here. You the one who gon' teach love without fear attached. Fam, healing starts when you stop protecting the pain and start processing it. Therapy ain't weakness, it's warfare. Prayer and counseling ain't opposites, they partners. And forgiveness don't erase what happened, it just removes who controls it. The goal ain't to expose your family, it's to end the echo. Beloved, your bloodline been bleeding too long. It's time to turn that wound into a witness. The same hands that held pain can hold promise now. You not dishonoring your family by healing. You redeeming them. You not the rebellion. You the restoration. Fam, trauma might run in the family, but so does anointing. And tonight, you the bridge between what was and what's about to be. Fam, let's talk about that not enough spirit. Because poverty ain't just about wallets, it's about worldview. Some of us grew up hearing we can't afford that so often, it became a prophecy. Scarcity got passed down like an heirloom. Bills got more faith than budgets. And even when we start earning more, we still think small, still waiting for it to all disappear. That's a poverty mindset, fam. And it'll keep you broke even when your bank change. See, your people did what they knew. They hustled hard, stretched little, and survived. And survival sound noble. But if all you ever do is survive, you never learn how to build. God didn't just call us to escape debt. He called us to create legacy. Proverbs 13:22 says, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. That means 2 generations down supposed to feel your obedience today. Fam, some of us gotta admit, we spend out of fear. We give up on goals cause we ain't seen nobody keep one. We confuse blessing with brand names and stewardship with stinginess. But God trying to break that right here, right now. He's teaching you how to think kingdom over consumer, how to sow, save, and strategize without shame. Because the same way curses pass down, so can wisdom. And this ain't just money, it's mentality. When you start tithing with peace instead of panic, heaven notices. When you start budgeting with purpose instead of pressure, your kids notice. You break the cycle every time you pick faith over flex, every time you pray before you purchase, every time you invest in knowledge instead of impulse. Beloved, wealth in the kingdom ain't about stacking, it's about stewarding. God can't multiply what you mismanage. But the minute you start thinking different, he starts supplying different. The not enough that haunted your childhood gonna bow to the more than enough that's about to bless your lineage. Fam, you ain't just changing your budget, you changing your bloodline blueprint. Generational poverty stops here. Abundance got your last name on it now. Fam. Emotions run through families like bloodlines. Some folks pass down recipes, others pass down rage. We inherit the way our people love, the way they argue, the way they hide. You ever notice how silence feel normal, how tension feels safe, how affection feel foreign? That's emotional inheritance. It shapes how we show up in love, even when we don't mean to. See, if you grew up where hugs were rare, you learned to hold yourself. If you watched anger speak louder than apology, you learned to armor your heart. And somewhere between protection and pride, love starts feeling like labor instead of gift. That's what happens when trauma teaches you the rules. We end up speaking fear fluently but struggle to say, I need you. But hear me, God didn't design love to be survival mode. 1 John 4:18 says, perfect love casts out fear. That means when love mature, fear get evicted. You can't build healthy relationships on defense. You can't pass peace down if your own heart's still barricaded. God's trying to break that emotional inheritance so the next generation don't flinch when kindness shows up. Fam, you gotta unlearn before you relearn. That means forgiving the parent who didn't know how to say sorry. That means showing your kids what vulnerability looks like. That means learning how to feel without apologizing for it. Emotional literacy is generational wealth too. When you heal, you teach your people how to speak softer without feeling smaller. Beloved, it's okay to admit love feels complicated. It's okay to cry over what you didn't get and still thank God for what you're learning to give. Every time you choose honesty over avoidance, affection over ego, compassion over control, you rewriting your family's emotional dictionary. Fam, you're going to be the one who turn we don't talk about feelings into we pray and process together. You're going to be the first to love without leftover pain. And that right there is the real inheritance. Fam, let's expose the biggest lie in the bloodline, the one that hide behind every generational habit. That's just how we are. You ever heard that? Somebody try to call out a pattern and suddenly it's tradition. We excuse dysfunction by rebranding it as identity. Anger become we just passionate. Gossip become we just expressive. Pride become we just strong-willed. And before long, brokenness got a last name. See, the enemy loved that phrase because it make bondage sound normal. He don't need you to sin loud. He just needs you to stop questioning the cycle. Once you start calling chains culture, you'll wear them with pride. But Romans 12:2 says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Translation, you can honor where you come from without repeating what destroyed it. Fam, God didn't call you to preserve the pattern. He called you to purify it. You can love your people and still leave the parts that ain't holy. You can respect your elders without inheriting their errors. The curse keeps living when we stop challenging it. But freedom starts when somebody says, we don't do that here anymore. Let's keep it real. Every family got blind spots. We normalize silence, favoritism, grudges, maybe even manipulation, and call it just how we do. But heaven ain't co-signing what hurts you. The minute you start renewing your mind, your habits start exposing theirs. And that's why the enemy fights you hardest when you start changing. He know once you see the lie, you can't unsee it. Beloved, don't let fear dress up as loyalty. Breaking the pattern don't mean you disrespect your roots. It mean you water them different. You're not rejecting your family, you redeeming them. You ain't cursing the past, you closing the contract. Fam, God calling you to redefine the phrase, that's just how we are, to that's who we used to be. The culture don't run the covenant resets the culture. The new normal starts with you, fam. This the hard truth. Sometimes we stay stuck cause dysfunction feels like home. You ever meet somebody who keep running back to chaos? Not cause they like pain, but cause peace feel foreign? When you've been raised on survival, safety feels suspicious. Love without fear feel fake. Silence without tension feel empty. That's how trauma tricks you. It make comfort out of what's been killing you. See, the body can heal faster than the mind. You can leave the environment, but still breathe like you inside it. That's why some of us keep attracting the same kind of people, same kind of drama, same kind of heartbreak. Familiar don't mean safe, it just means you recognize the danger. And the devil used that. He'll recycle your past in prettier packaging and call it closure. Jeremiah 6:14 says, "They dress the wound of my people as though it were not serious. Peace, peace," they say, when there is no peace. That's what happens when we normalize brokenness. We paint the walls of the same pain and call it progress. We say, "At least it's not as bad as before," instead of saying, "This ain't God's best for me." But fam, restoration don't come from tolerating what hurt you. It comes from transforming it. Let's be real. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar healing. Change costs comfort. And sometimes freedom gon' feel lonely because nobody else in your circle ready to leave the cage yet. But you can't stay where God delivered you from just to make other people comfortable. If dysfunction raised you, peace gon' feel like rebellion, and that's okay. Beloved, God ain't calling you to decorate your prison. He calling you to demolish it. Don't confuse family tradition with trauma bonding. You were built for better rooms, better rhythms, better roots. You ain't crazy for wanting peace. You just homesick for Eden. Fam, you can't break the cycle and keep the comfort. Choose the discomfort that heals over the familiarity that hides. The pain of growing is still better than the pain of staying. Fam, this one gonna hit deep because nobody talk about the guilt that come with growing. You ever feel bad for wanting better? Like somehow your peace make other people uncomfortable? The minute you start changing, they start saying, "You acting different." And maybe you are. Maybe that's the point. Growth don't mean you better than them. It just means you finally better than who you used to be. See, when you break a cycle, you break rhythm too. The old group chat don't hit the same. The jokes feel heavy now. The energy shift, and suddenly your elevation feel like rebellion. You love them, but you can't stay stuck just to keep them company. Jesus faced that same tension. Mark 6:4 says, "A prophet is not without honor except in his hometown." Even he couldn't do miracles where folks refused to see him different. Sometimes separation is spiritual strategy. Fam, loyalty to growth ain't disloyalty to family. You can honor your roots and still prune your branches. But guilt will gaslight you into shrinking. It'll whisper, "Don't go too far. Don't shine too bright." It'll tell you keep dimming so you don't get disowned. But let me tell you, hiding your healing to stay relatable ain't love. It's bondage. You ain't responsible for staying small just because they scared to stretch. And yeah, outgrowing hurts. It's lonely when the people who once clapped for you start competing with you. It's heavy when family don't understand the version of you that prays now instead of fights. But God didn't call you to fit. He called you to free. Your obedience gonna look like offense to folks still living in old patterns. Beloved, stop apologizing for elevation. You didn't leave them. You left the version of y'all that kept losing. You can love them from a healed distance. Pray for them, bless them, but don't shrink for them. Guilt don't belong in growth. The same God who raised you up can raise them too when they ready. Fam, remember, every builder got to step away from the blueprint before the structure stands. You ain't betraying your people. You blueprinting their future. Fam, let's talk about that quiet fear. The one that whispers, "What if I turn into them?" You escape the pattern, but you still side-eye your reflection. You pray different, talk different, raise your kids different. But deep down, you wonder if the same demons that chased your parents still got your name on the list. You scared the cycle might skip a beat, then double back through you. That fear real, fam, because memory got muscle. The same way trauma lives in the body, patterns live in the spirit. You see a flash of anger and panic. That sounded like my dad. You catch yourself withdrawing and whisper, "That's my mama's silence." It's like you fighting ghosts with your own voice. But listen, Romans 8:15 says, "You did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you received the spirit of adoption." Translation: you ain't bound by their blueprint. You've been drafted into a new bloodline. See, freedom don't mean temptation disappear. It means the pattern lost permission. The enemy can't own what you've already surrendered. Yeah, the old habits still knock, but they don't hold keys no more. You gonna feel the tug, but that don't mean you trapped. The presence of the pull ain't the proof of possession. It's the proof of progress. Fam, breaking cycles ain't a one-time shout. It's a daily choice. Every time you catch yourself snapping and stop mid-sentence, cycle broken. Every time you pray instead of lash out, cycle broken. Every time you tell your kids, I love you, even if you never heard it growing up, cycle shattered. You don't need to be perfect to prove you free. You just need to stay present. Beloved, the fear of becoming what you escaped is really just the enemy reminding you how far you've come. You not your past, you the proof it can't reproduce. The same spirit that broke your parents' pain is perfecting your peace. And what once ran in your family now runs into the cross. Fam, you ain't cursed, you commissioned. The pattern died the day you decided to live different. Every sunrise is heaven's reminder. You didn't escape by accident. You were chosen to evolve on purpose. Fam, here's the pivot, the part where pain turns into purpose. You don't heal the family by staying sick with them. You heal it by standing up, even if you gotta stand alone. The medicine don't work when everybody keep pretending they fine. Somebody gotta be the first to say, we not okay, but we gon' be. And sometimes that somebody is you. See, God didn't call you to mirror the dysfunction. He called you to model deliverance. You can't pull your people out of darkness if you keep dimming your light just to blend in. When you stand up, you show them what healed look like in human form. You become the evidence that grace ain't theory, it's transferable. 2 Corinthians 5:20 says, we are ambassadors for Christ. Translation: you represent heaven at the family table. Every boundary you set is a sermon. Every apology you offer is revival in miniature. Fam, stop thinking you gotta choose between love and limits. Healthy boundaries are love. They protect what God's building. You can pray for your people without playing doctor to their dysfunction. You can forgive them without re-entering the fire. Standing up don't mean you look down on them. It means you look up to Him. You ain't abandoning your roots. You planting them deeper in truth. Beloved, this is where the curse cracks open. The minute you say, no more, heaven echoes, now move. That single act of obedience sends shockwaves down the family line. Angels take notes when a generational wound finally meets a willing heart. You might cry while you do it, but tears water the soil of transformation. Fam, stand up. Not out of pride, but out of purpose. Don't confuse peacekeeping with peacemaking. Peacemakers step forward. They don't shrink back. The same God that lifted you gonna use you to lift them once you stop sitting in what He freed you from. Fam, let's rewind to the blueprint. Genesis 12. God tells Abram, leave your country, your relatives, and your father's house, and go to the land I will show you. That wasn't a travel plan. That was a transition order. Abram wasn't just moving zip codes. He was moving generations. God was saying, what I'm about to build through, you can't breathe in what you've been living in. And that's the same call on you tonight. See, everybody want to be blessed like Abraham, but don't nobody want to leave like Abraham. He had to walk away from familiar idols, old names, family expectations, and step into a place with no map, no proof, just promise. Faith ain't comfortable, fam. It's costly, You can't stay where everybody's comfortable and expect to build something generational. Sometimes obedience gonna make you look disloyal to folks who still love their limitations. And here's the wild part. God didn't even tell Abram where to go. He said, I will show you. Meaning, you don't get the GPS till you start moving. That's how generational shifts work. Direction comes after departure. You keep waiting on confirmation, but heaven waiting on movement. The blessing ain't tied to location. It's tied to obedience. Fam, When Abram left, he carried a bloodline inside him that didn't even exist yet. Nations, kings, prophets, all sleeping in his yes. And that's you. Every prayer you pray tonight plants protection around generations you might never meet. Your obedience today gonna echo through bloodlines tomorrow. Beloved, the hardest part of transformation is the distance it creates. You're gonna miss some folks who still stuck where God found you. You're gonna grieve what you grew past. But don't let nostalgia talk you out of destiny. God can't make you a blessing to many if you stay buried in the comfort of few. Fam, Abraham didn't just leave home. He left the history that was holding him. And the moment he stepped out, heaven stepped in. That's the assignment for every cycle breaker. Move first, even when nobody clapping. The shift don't start when they agree. It start when you obey. Fam. Joseph's story gonna teach you that forgiveness ain't weakness. It's weapon. Genesis 50:20 been echoing through generations. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. That line right there. That's the sound of a man who broke a family curse with mercy. His brothers sold him, lied on him, left him for dead, but he still became their provider. He didn't just feed them grain, he fed them grace. See, revenge is the reflex of the wounded. It feel right 'cause it feel fair. But Joseph had every reason to clap back and still chose compassion. He looked at the same faces that threw him in a pit and said, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God?" Translation, I'm not going to let your sin make me bitter when God already made me better. That's what cycle breaking looked like in real time. Fam, his forgiveness freed the whole bloodline. 'Cause if Joseph had stayed petty, Israel would have stayed hungry. Bitterness blocks blessings, not just yours, but everybody connected to you. God elevated Joseph to prove that the family wound can become the family well. What once tried to bury you becomes the resource that feeds generations. And watch how strategic God is. The coat they stripped from him as a symbol of pride, he replaced it with robes of authority. The pit they pushed him in became the platform God pulled him from. Every betrayal turned into blueprint. Every no became a not yet. That's how restoration works. It don't erase the story, it redeems the plot. Beloved, Joseph didn't forgive because it didn't hurt. He forgave because he refused to hand pain to the next generation. And that's your move now. You gonna be the one who stops trauma from traveling further. You gonna be the one who tells your bloodline, we don't curse each other no more. We cover each other. Fam, real healing starts when you realize revenge don't restore. It recycles. And forgiveness don't make you soft. It make you supernatural. Joseph ain't lose by letting go. He won by outgrowing it. That's how you flip the script for your family. Feed them what hurt you and watch grace multiply. Fam, Ruth's story is proof that loyalty hit different when it's led by God, not guilt. See, some of us been loyal to patterns God already pronounced dead. We call it faithfulness, but it's really fear of losing connection. Ruth flipped that whole script. She didn't stay stuck in the same grief just 'cause everybody else was comfortable there. She stepped out with purpose. Ruth 1:16, where you go, I will go. Your God will be my God. That wasn't just devotion to Naomi. It was declaration to destiny. Let's paint the picture. Ruth was a Moabite. Wrong tribe, wrong history, wrong bloodline. Culturally disqualified. Her husband gone, her future uncertain. She could have gone back to the familiar like Orpah did, but instead she said, nah, I'm moving forward even if I gotta walk by faith alone. That's how cycles get broken, when one person decides covenant matter more than comfort. Fam, God rewarded that kind of risk. Ruth's yes in obscurity led her straight to Boaz and a whole generational blessing. From outsider to lineage, she became the great-grandmother of King David. You see that pattern? The woman from the wrong side of the story got written into the bloodline of the Messiah. That's what happens when you break toxic loyalty. Heaven opens new legacy. And check this. Ruth didn't chase favor. Favor found her working. While others mourned the past, she gleaned in the field. God met her in motion. You can't rebuild a bloodline sitting in sorrow. You gotta sow in the soil that's still left. The same field that saw her struggle became the one that crowned her story. Beloved, some of y'all gotta take a Ruth step this season. Stop confusing loyalty with limitation. You can love people without living their loop. Your yes to God gonna rewrite your last name in the spirit, and your faith gonna feed generations that never knew your fight. Fam, Ruth didn't just stay, she shifted. She turned pain into purpose and made history out of heartbreak. So when you feel guilty for moving forward, remember, Ruth, sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is walk away from what no longer honors God. Fam, every story we done talked about tonight, Abraham leaving, Joseph forgiving, Ruth choosing, it all point to one final move, Jesus breaking the curse. The cross wasn't just personal salvation, it was generational cancellation. Every bloodline pattern, every inherited pain, every chain from mama's house to yours, it all got confronted on that wood. Galatians 3:13 says, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. That means the family bill got paid in full. See, sin run in the blood, but so does the remedy. From Adam came the infection. From Jesus came the transfusion. When his blood hit the ground, heaven stamped every generational contract void. What used to flow down your family line hit a divine interruption. Addiction lost the password. Abuse lost the access. Shame lost the address. The cross flipped the script. Fam, that's why Jesus didn't just die for you. He adopted you. Romans 8:17 says, we are heirs with Christ. That means you got a new last name in the spirit. You ain't just free, you family. And in this house, we don't inherit curses, we inherit covenants. Every time you say yes to Jesus, you tell hell, that cycle expired the moment I believed. And here's the cold part. The enemy still try to send reminders. He'll whisper, you just like your daddy, or you gonna end up just like her. But the cross changed the DNA. You ain't just like nobody except Christ. You might share their features, but you don't share their fate. The curse can't climb Calvary. It died halfway up the hill. Beloved, this the part we shout about, but it's also the part we stand on. You got to remind yourself daily, I'm not building from broken blood, I'm building from blessed blood. Jesus didn't bleed for you to repeat history. He bled for you to redeem it. So lift your head, cycle breaker. You're not carrying the curse. You carrying the cross. Fam, grace done run up in your family reunion and flipped every generational script. The curse got canceled in red ink. Your whole bloodline got a new chapter now, and it start with you. Fam, Gideon's story, that's every cycle breaker's mirror. Judges 6:12 says, the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. But catch this. When that word dropped, Gideon wasn't swinging no sword. He was hiding, threshing wheat in a wine press, ducking the enemy, trying to make a little bread in secret. Scared, small, uncertain. And right there, God spoke destiny over dysfunction. See, Gideon came from a family of fear. His people bowed to idols, lived in lack, accepted oppression like it was normal. They believed survival was the ceiling. But God looked at that timid man and said, I choose you, not the loud one, not the qualified one, the one too afraid to believe it. Because heaven loves pulling history makers out of hiding. He wasn't calling Gideon based on confidence. He was calling him based on calling. Fam, Gideon argued, like we do. How can I save Israel? My clan's the weakest and I'm the least. Translation, God, you got the wrong one. But hear me, God never gets the wrong one. He picks the underdog on purpose. He breaks cycles by using what the family overlooked. Every least he chooses turns into a leader. Then God told Gideon, tear down your father's altar to Baal. Woo, that's the assignment right there. Don't just fight the outside enemy. Face the in-house idol. Before you conquer the land, you got to clean the lineage. Gideon obeyed. At night, afraid, but obedient anyway. And when he did, heaven shifted. The same man who hid became the one who led. Beloved, that's how God raised cycle breakers. He called you mighty while you still shaky. He don't wait till you bold to bless you. The blessing make you bold. And every act of courage you take breaks fear off your family. You might be the quiet one, the sensitive one, the different one, but that's exactly why he picked you. Gideon didn't look like the savior his people expected, but he became the warrior they needed. Fam, you ain't weak. You just in wine press training. God about to take what you do in secret and make it salvation in public. The same bloodline that laughed at your fear gonna live off your faith. You're not the least, you're the legacy. Fam, you can't break what you won't name. Every cycle breaker got to step into the mirror moment, the one where you stop saying, that's just how we are, and start calling the pattern by its government name. Denial keep demons comfortable, silence keep sickness settled, but the minute you name it, you strip it of power. See, even Jesus asked the demon in Mark 5:9, what is your name? And the spirit said, Legion. Translation, you can't cast out what you pretend don't exist. Some of us fighting vibes when we should be identifying roots. You think it's attitude, but it's abandonment. You think it's temper, but it's trauma. You think it's control, but it's fear. Until you call it out, you can't call it gone. Fam, write it down tonight. What pattern been stalking your people? Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's addiction. Maybe it's pride, poverty, silence, self-sabotage, or spiritual apathy. See, don't sugarcoat it. Say it like you mean it. Lord, this spirit of jealousy ends here. This generational neglect stops with me. This addiction to pain breaks tonight. Every declaration you make is a legal eviction notice in the spirit. And hear me, you not cursing your family by calling it out. You covering them. You the first to tell the truth out loud so the next generation don't gotta whisper it in shame. You the one who gonna clean the bloodline, not condemn it. Heaven trusts you with the broom, fam. Pick it up. Beloved, the curse lose authority the moment the chosen one identifies it. You don't need a title to do deliverance. You just need honesty, fee. God can't heal what you hide behind culture, so say it, write it, pray it, and then watch him slay it. Fam, this the part of the story where you shift from victim to vessel. When you name the thing, you expose the thief. And once light hit it, it gotta leave. Every word you speak tonight gonna echo through your bloodline like thunder, announcing the curse been identified and it's officially over. Fam, now that you done named the pattern, it's time to change the language. 'Cause every curse got a soundtrack. The enemy don't just move through behavior, he moves through words. Whole families live under phrases that sound casual but carry chains. We always struggle. Marriage don't work for people like us. Everybody in this house got a temper. Nah, fam, that's curse talk disguised as culture. And if you don't rewrite it, your kids gonna rehearse it. Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Translation, every sentence is seed. Every joke, every I can't, every we broke, every we cursed, it's building or breaking something. But the good news, you can flip it. Tonight, heaven handing you a new script, covenant language. That's talk that align with what God said, not what history screamed. Start speaking like your last name blessed. We are a family of peace. We walk in provision. We forgive quick and love deep. Generosity runs in this bloodline. You ain't lying, you prophesying. You speaking into existence what grace already wrote down. The enemy been narrating your lineage long enough. It's time to grab the mic back. Fam, curse language says, we always been this way. Covenant language says, God's still writing us new. Curse language says, we don't deserve better. Covenant language says, we already covered. Curse language echoes fear. Covenant language amplifies faith. Beloved, from this night forward, every room you walk in gotta sound different. Your words gonna set thermostats in your house. Speak peace till arguments dry up. Speak abundance till the bills start respecting your faith. Speak healing till trauma got nowhere left to sit. You're not just talking, you trend in heaven's algorithm. Fam, the tongue that once recycled curses now release covenants. When you open your mouth, hell gets noticed that the cycle done lost its narrator. Keep speaking new over old and watch the whole bloodline start sounding like breakthrough. Fam, talk is power, but lifestyle is proof. You don't just break the cycle by saying new stuff. You break it by showing new stuff. Somebody gotta be the blueprint, the example, the walking sermon. You might be the first one in your line to go to therapy, to pray out loud, to tell your kids you love them without a holiday, to apologize without a defense. That's what legacy looked like. Repetition of healing instead of hurt. Deuteronomy 6:7 says, "You shall teach these words diligently to your children. Talk about them when you sit, when you walk, when you lie down, and when you rise." Translation: don't just post the breakthrough, live it daily. Let the next generation see what recovery sounds like. Let them hear forgiveness in your tone, discipline in your decisions, softness in your strength. The cycle don't end when you shout, it ends when you model. Fam, healed people raise whole families different. You start praying instead of yelling. You start communicating instead of cutting folks off. You start loving without keeping score. That's the blueprint. And when your kids, nieces, nephews, or lil cousins see that, you teach them what normal should have looked like all along. You show them peace is possible without silence, love is possible without fear, and success is possible without selling your soul. Beloved, the curse repeats when comfort outruns conviction. But you disrupting the cycle every time you choose truth over tradition. Every healed reaction becomes a holy pattern. Every boundary becomes a blessing in the bloodline. And even when they don't thank you now, they'll thank God later. Fam, don't underestimate your quiet obedience. The same way trauma echoed through generations, so will your transformation. You the new blueprint, and your healed life is the manual for everybody watching. Keep walking it out, even when it's lonely, because one day your last name gonna spell grace. Fam, this right here is where the story flips. The curse been running the playbook long enough, but tonight, you changing the headline. This the part where heaven leans in and says, it stops with you. All that pain that used to pass down, it's hitting a wall called purpose. You not just surviving your story, you rewriting it. See, cycles end when somebody stops running on autopilot and starts driving on assignment. You ain't here by accident. God placed you in that family on purpose. He knew they'd need somebody bold enough to face the patterns and faithful enough to finish the healing. That's why the warfare been so heavy, because hell only fights what heaven favors. But the fact that you still here, still breathing, still believing, that's proof you already winning. Fam, look around. What used to break y'all now bounce off you. The same spirits that tormented your parents can't touch your peace. The same poverty that haunted your childhood can't enter your household. The same silence that hid abuse can't survive your voice. You the firewall in the family system. You the divine reset button God pressed. Beloved, don't shrink under that assignment. Walk tall in it. You ain't cursed, you called. And your obedience gonna outlive your name. When your grandkids tell stories, they gonna say, it changed when they chose healing. When heaven roll the credits, your name gonna glow as the one who flipped the generational script. So fam, lift your chin, wipe your tears. You carrying a kingdom bloodline now. Every demon that used to run your family gotta see your name and respect the block. The cycle broke tonight, not by accident, but by authority. Walk like the curse expired, cause it did. Fam, the next chapter of your lineage, Starts with your yes, the curse ends here, and grace begins now. Fam, if you still breathing after this word, that mean heaven ain't done with your story. You made it through what was meant to mute you. You stood up in rooms where silence was tradition. You told truth in bloodlines built on denial. You broke habits that been hiding for decades. That's not small. It's sacred. The angels record in every act of courage like heaven highlight reels. This the benediction for every cycle breaker out there. You ain't crazy for choosing peace. You ain't selfish for protecting your energy. You ain't weak for walking away from what wounded you. That spiritual maturity dressed in street clothes. You not the black sheep. You the blueprint. You not different. You the divine disruption God sent to reboot the whole system. Fam, let this hour soak in your bones. Every time the old pattern knock, don't answer. Every time the voice of shame whisper, talk back with scripture. Every time you feel tired, remind yourself, I'm building legacy, not comfort. You ain't just changing your life, you changing generations unborn. You the prayer your ancestors whispered when nobody listened. Beloved, from now on, walk like the curse already in the grave. Smile like deliverance permanent. Praise like you inherited peace. And if nobody ever told you before, thank you for breaking what broke them. Heaven saw you do what others couldn't, and grace gonna carry you the rest of the way. Fam, this hour been proof that redemption run deep. Your last name about to mean something new. The chain snapped. The curse collapsed. The story shifted. This ain't your Sunday school. This is YNB Spirituals. Book closed.